We're starting the recording. Okay, we're in we're in Satisfying Cactus Sprint 3.
Wow. No, we're not.
We're almost there. We're running into issues with the projector.
It's coming. Okay.
Okay. Projector's working. So we're in Satisfying Cactus Sprint 3. This is a 3-week sprint that begins today and will end on the 1st of December. It spans 3 weeks, but keep in mind that we actually have Thanksgiving break in there, which is from November 23rd through the 24th. What we're trying to do with this sprint is the target is to get a 4.1 release on December 1st. Okay, so let's get started. We'll go over to... Okay, so let's get started. Let me increase the font. Okay. And then we will go through... why do we have a story for preparing for chord build? So we'll start with preparing for chord build.
Which is actually done, by the way.
So now that we're out of chord build or done with chord build,
one way or the other, it's done.
Yes. So can people please go in and close their stories for chord build?
But if you put the epic in done in completion, the stories won't be automatically in completion.
I don't know. We'll ignore it for now. People can just go through and close it, and then I'll close the epic, and then hopefully that'll take care of it. Okay, and then we'll move on to the next thing. Deployments. Luca.
Oh, amazing. I have a bunch of other stories.
You do? Where did you put them? I will refresh.
Not a bunch. Some other story. Yeah. Better. I still miss a couple. So I don't know what to do with a couple because I'm still supporting Netsia, NTT, but I have the feeling it's something I can't be done really in a deployment, something that is continuously going on. I'm supporting some deployments, but there's not really a goal. The goal is deploying, but then they want to do more and more and more and more. So I don't know how to put it inside here, because those are just two stories.
Okay.
Outside that, still we have to finish to deploy eCord in China Mobile. Also here is more support. I think they understood what to do. So with the help of Andrea and Mark, we are just give them some suggestions. But the story is still there. And then I think the other two are pretty interesting. So at Core Build, a bunch of people ask me, they say, I cannot deploy Core in China. So I thought we created already a guide for China Mobile, and it's time to make it public. So these two stories are, one, I will create officially for everyone, not just for China, packages of chord, so the TarGZ of all the versions of chord. I'll put them on a web server plus CDN, which is reachable also from China. And then I'll make all the documentation that we made available for others, both for eCord and the general core pod, available for the Chinese community. And then there will be all the part that we will do with David, with the community to, advertise this to the community and find someone to maintain possibly the repository up to date and the documentation up to date on their site. So this is all to enable Chinese guys to deploy Chord.
Deploy or develop?
Deploy and develop both.
So
today they cannot even get the code.
Okay, my only concern is we need to figure out how to get their contributions back right? Otherwise, things all get
One
out
step
of.
at a time. Nowadays, they cannot even download one bit of code, right?
I know, but to me, deploy is fine. But as soon as they start changing it, it's going to be a bear to try to get it all
well,
back.
sure, but we will go to the next problem then, and
So
we will have other tasks in Jira. And
yes, it would be good to start figuring out the
no,
next
no,
problem.
I understand. So, but that's I think is a bigger story, and if we think immediately these two, I can do them pretty easily because it's just a matter to transform like a very specific documentation to something more generic and to publish like 3 binaries, well, targz somewhere. So I can do it quite quick, and that point people can at least start to use it, right?
And we've seen this working in China Mobile.
Yeah, I think to the bigger stories, we use a repo, which unfortunately still uses all the Google stuff, and so they're already blocked on that stuff. So we should move out probably of repo. It's like a bigger story. So let's do one step at a time. This is what I can do at this iteration for now. And yeah, you're right. Let's think then.
Okay, I just don't want us to accrue a lot of debt in terms of trying to then try to get it all back.
Understood.
Okay. Next. Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm still confused between these two. But
which one?
These two. The one you just didn't you just okay, you deselected that one.
Yeah,
never mind.
it's the epics are all over the place. We need to just clean it up because some of these epics are like from way back. Uniform development environment. Zach, Teo.
Yeah, the top 3 are mine. The first is I think I can knock out a pretty low-hanging fruit that we encountered during the chord build event when we were doing the service tutorial. The Tosca files, we can run a lib check on them so that people will know very quickly if their Tosca is well-formed. It can be totally invalid, but at least it's well-formed. It would possibly load. And then the next 2 are the in-process things that I have going that are improving image builder that are also along that will help with service development.
And the last one is to make usage of the multi-stage build in Docker to make GUI container smaller in size, and so to have the build running faster. It of course depends on 1564.
Okay. Maintenance?
The 2 there are something having to do with interface and bridge handling. That is probably going to be needed for the various things that we do for Kubernetes. And so I'm still working on that. That may be turn out to be a 5.0 item. And then the other one that I have, they're image builders for images and local repos. That's also follows off of the chord build tutorial.
So for this sprint, I guess my understanding is that the top priorities are getting eChord and mChord ready for the 4.1 release.
Yes.
But I guess a secondary or lower priority would be to take what we learned from chord build in terms of how easy or difficult it is to onboard a service and try to start cleaning up some things to make that process more streamlined.
That's my understanding as well, and most of these are because it sounds to me like most of the eChord work is done and eChord's in a really good place. Mark and Andrea can follow up on that, but both Scott and I were asking, hey, what else do we have to do for eChord?
Because I want to make sure that we have documentation in place, right?
Right.
And testing of each of these. So are those done?
No.
So to me, we need to wrap those up if we want to have these as releases as part of 4.1.
So hold on, go case by case. Well, we can look at when we go at the epics, but eCore documentation is done. We just missed the development documentation, which I put in the sprint.
Which is also partially done. It's in a Google Doc.
Yeah, which needs to be reviewed, and I put that story in the sprint anyway. Anchored, we are still at the beginning, and so my plan is to start exactly the work I've done with them with the Anchor team. We are probably a little bit far on the end-to-end testing in the sense that they do it for sure, eCord, I mean, but it's still a manual and painful process. But we agreed also at the beginning that end-to-end testing wasn't something to do completely automatic, right? So I think we are, at least with eCord, we are in good shape.
Yes.
So I guess,
compared to what we planned.
Yeah. So where are we at with mChord? And we'll get to it. But part of it is the whole thing with swarming is if we don't think that we have enough folks to try to get mChord done on the existing team, are there other people that are working on other things that we can pull in to help, right? And that's the intent of swarming, is making sure that our highest priority commitments are going to be done in that time frame.
I can explain a little bit. I think the code team, Andy and Sapan and Matthew already helping us, and so far there is one issue. We haven't solved it. Is Intel needed to solve their when the Intel data plan VM put inside our code environment, it doesn't work. Right now, the Intel team is fixing that. So after solve this issue, the traffic should go through. So far I don't have a good idea for the end-to-end testing, because we have the license issue. Even the end-to-end traffic can go through, we still have the license server there. I don't know how to automate it and automatically test it. That might need some manual step there.
No,
this is the status.
But we say that we were talking about manual testing for now, right? I think automated can.
You mean the Jenkins testing?
So it means that we keep using the Jenkins script that we have. We build the pod, and then you do some manual configuration that you have to do, right? Just as the guide that we will publish online says, right? You should just follow the steps that are in the guide. When you arrive at the end, you should do a ping, and the ping should go through manually.
Yeah. For the I stopped. I manually did something that's for the code build, and we should automatically do everything. Yeah, that's the plan. But so far at this moment, we haven't automatically everything every day.
Well, we should.
Yeah, we should. I think maybe because right now I stopped Jenkins because the Intel team is debugging in that environment, and maybe after fix that, or maybe we can use the QCT for automatically every night the online, but until Intel fix that, then I also can every night rebuild it.
It already runs in QCT as well every night. Well, okay, I think we can take it offline, but anyway, the concept is that we should start to build the pod every night in a consistent way, every time in the same way, and we should arrive to the same good result. If we do it, and the guide reflects those steps, the guide that we will have to publish, then I think automatically we are in good shape to what we planned.
We can start this from the QCT pod.
So we're saying mChord is probably further from completion for 4.1. So let's touch on it first as a high priority and see if there's any additional help that is needed, right? So let's walk through the mChord migration stories and see if we think that this is doable by the beginning of December.
Okay.
So let's work through the stories.
Yeah, the release is the beginning of December, right? When will we tag the 4.1? When will we announce the release?
December 1 is when we said we would be done. Right?
Okay.
So if we were to work backwards, Andy, when would we do a candidate? Andy?
Say maybe a week before that. So, but then that kind of brings us maybe into conflict with Thanksgiving.
Yes.
So then we would have 2 weeks to prepare the candidate if we were going to try to get it out a week before December 1st.
So the option is to do it right after Thanksgiving on that Monday as a candidate.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
So if we were to target that, Ping Ping, do we have all the pieces in place?
If we want to target at December 1, so I think I need to delete one piece.
What?
For the current task I put in Jira, maybe I need to delete one piece's work.
But if you delete that piece, will you have a full solution? So let's walk through the stories and then we can figure out the timing that will work. So who's got this first one? Luca?
Yeah, I summarized this saying write a bunch of documentation. Everything.
Okay.
There's no documentation right now. So.
And do you have the information you need to write the documentation,
no,
or is there?
I never talked to the team. I start tomorrow with the MCore team, right?
Okay, so the assumption is you should be able to have enough information to complete the task.
Well, by the way, that thing, I put my name because you have to put the name of someone, right? Responsible for it. But I don't write documentation. My job is not writing documentation, at least for other people. I'm there to help. So I think the team should write the documentation together, right? So what I did is that it's just that I come as a user that don't know anything about MCore, and I try to understand again and arrive to a repeatable, consistent process. And as a consequence of that, we write the documentation together.
So are you organizing and driving that so people understand the work they need to do?
I'm trying. At least in MCore, the work, I think, quite well.
Okay.
I think it went well. Basically, if I can share my experience, what Luca did was mainly providing a template for us. It was like, okay, guys, we need these 10 things happening in this documentation. Please fill this up. So me, Mark, and other people that contributed to eCord and Max and everybody went in, filled it up, and then we reviewed it together. He reviewed it and said, okay, we need more information here, more information there. And then from there on, it was an iterative process, and we got it done.
Yeah, I think if you write the documentation and you try to follow the steps you just wrote to deploy, you automatically understand what you need. That's the point.
For MCore, Luca already gave the framework. Before code build, I and Bongjun already fill in part of it, maybe 30% of the document in the guide. So we should continue that work.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Next.
Yeah, wait a second. It's loading. Can you click on it? Okay. Yeah, this is better. For the because the Intel data plan missed a NAT function. So right now we just use a hack to put into 2 static flows inside. Before release, we need to solve this issue. This is 2141. 1998 is a parallel thread, just a box to test. So let's continue. This is the installation guide. I'm already talked about it, and the next one is for Andy. Do you want to say the next?
Sure. I guess once we get the idea here is that the RCord profile has a simple end-to-end test that you can run using the test client to validate that things got set up as expected. And so I was going to do similar thing for MCord. This is just something quick and dirty that I hope that we could get done quickly. It's not meant to replace the work that QA is doing, although hopefully it would be a test that I could contribute to their testing. 2244. So I guess there's some issues with in the current with the current Spirent eNode B. There's an issue about XOS logging in. I'm looking into that right now, but that's a bug that needs to be fixed before we have a functional solution. And oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just have a question on this Spirent EPC, since as far as I know, that is not open source, so we cannot release it on 4.1. So I don't know how much of a priority is to fix this login issue.
The login for both Intel and Spirent have the same issue here, and all the 3 VMs have the same issue so far. And I think maybe need to be even not with Spirent, even maybe start from the Intel side. For the release, Intel side definitely we will go with it, but for the run, I needed to confirm from the managers whether we go with Spirent or NG40. I don't know which right now, whether they are okay or not. I need to confirm. Hope they don't change. Still continue the Spirent because we did a lot of work there. So if we continue with Spirent, the story is totally the same. Totally what we list here. If the leaders go with another one, I will try to explain. We don't have enough time to switch to another one. I will try to continue the Spirent for the 2 weeks in 2 weeks work. Then we can make it really release in December. This one, yes, closed source. It need lessons. It need to use the email to apply the lessons. But the VM, we can boot the VM, but then only after give lessons it will work. The function will work.
So I guess one issue that we've been having with mChord is that there's 2 different versions of the EPC that we've been discussing. This I guess Spirent and the NG4T, and it's not clear which one we're actually going to be using for the release. Is that a fair summary? Ping Ping?
Yes, I think so. I already sent out on the Slack, and maybe I needed to make a call or set up a call, or which exactly we need. They want to use, or whether the 2 choices like the Spirent or NG40, they want to together the 4.9 release with us. We haven't confirmed from them.
And we have.
Before this, we only confirmed that we can use their software for the code build. We haven't asked them for the release.
I see. But we have only just a couple of weeks to get this nailed down and build out the services we need and the documentation and tests and all of this.
Yes.
So I'm a little concerned that we're not going to make it.
Hope we can set down it today or tomorrow, because we don't have much time left. And we will told them we prefer use Spirent because we're already halfway of it.
Right, I think we're farther along with Spirent.
Yeah. So after for the rest of the work, I think since we only have 2 weeks, I put a lot of work with the SD controller. I think since we only have 2 weeks, so I don't think we have time for the integrated SD controller. I will explain to other people, to like us and other leaders, if they want to use SD controller. I will explain. We don't have enough time to integrate the SD controller because the data plan right now doesn't work. We don't know how many days it takes. So I will delete all the tasks with SD controller just to make the make the ensemble book can totally configure the 3 VMs.
So if you had that extra week, right? So if you assume that even if we were to do a candidate release or a candidate release on that Monday, and you had that extra week, could you finish off the SDN controller piece?
I don't know whether Dimitrix is there or not. He's working for our side. We always can do connectivity to SDN controller. For us, we can finish. And the VNF, the SDN application, I don't know whether they can finish or not. Whether Dimitrix is there or not. He's working on this. From my side, from our side, like we give the from XOS side, just give the connectivity configuration and the playbook. We can done with 1 more week. But for the whether the ONOS application, SDN controller is the ONOS together with the application. I don't know whether Dimitrix can finish that part.
Demetrius, are you somewhere?
I'll ask you whether he's with you or not.
No.
No.
You want me to fetch?
Okay.
No.
So I think for safety, I don't suggest put the SDN controller here. Maybe at the second priority, the SDN controller.
So let's do this. Can we circle back with Oz to understand how critical this is, as well as circle back with Demetrius and see how close he is to being.
Yeah, sure.
Right. So let's not take it out until we understand if we can fit this in or not.
Yeah, for code build, we don't have it. All people can accept. Let's confirm again if you prefer.
I think what we're saying is we're porting this to 4.1, right? So what did we promise as in the 4.1 release? And I want to make sure that if we're removing it, we're consciously deciding to remove it and that we're getting the okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you can. This is mainly from Dimitrix side, and we can if we give 1 more week, we can finish the connectivity from our side.
Okay, so let's verify with Demetrius if that's in place, and then let's see if we were to go all the way to December 1st, whether this is doable.
Say that again.
So let's confirm with Demetrius where he's at.
Oh, okay.
And if we assume that we're going all the way to December 1st, right? I'm fine if we do a candidate a week before December 1st, but let's see if we can do a stretch goal to get this done. If we're saying that's not possible at all, we need to circle back and make sure that it's understood that this release will not contain this functionality, and we need to just make sure that we're closing that loop, right?
Okay.
And confirming with everyone that that's okay. Okay?
Great.
Okay, and then let's move to, okay, so the feeling I'm getting is that other than the SDN controller piece, everything else looks good for 4.1. Is that the case? And if that's not the case, do we need to pull in other folks that are working on other functionality to help with this?
I already, this is Zach, I already volunteered to Andy if he needs me for anything on this to do that, but most of my help would be probably with maybe some of the end-to-end or build system stuff. And it's up to him whether it's going to be too many cooks in the kitchen with that.
So as far as whether or not things look good for 4.1, so yeah, I didn't have a chance to sync up with Ping Ping before this call, unfortunately, but I'm concerned that maybe we haven't even got anything that's fully working yet.
Right. Andy, you are right. The data plan doesn't work yet.
Right. So yeah, I guess we're still, I don't think there's a lot of work to do on like the XOS side, but just resolving some problems with the different VNF images and making sure that everything works as expected, I think still hasn't been done yet. And so I'm concerned that will take unknown amount of time.
Yeah, for me, it's also unknown because the Intel side is almost, but several times loops still need time. So right now I cannot say, I even can't predict how many times still need right now.
But it sounds like the Intel people are helping us debug and
Yes.
they have a stake in making sure that this is working in part of the release. So hopefully they'll be able to help us resolve it before too long. Does that sound right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because my understanding was that we were releasing with the open source version of the EPC, right? So I think that it would be good for the Scrum to circle back with O's, who is essentially the product owner on it, and make sure that he's aware of what's in versus out. Okay? And then let's make sure that we do a realistic assessment of whether this is doable in 4.1. If not, I think we need to raise the exception early rather than later. Okay, let's move on to eChord migration. It sounds like things are good.
Yeah, things are pretty good to 4.1. We had a stretch goal to integrate the split of the private and public traffic inside the 4.1 release. This is something that we are working on. Starting basically right now. I had some discussions with John and Surf last week on how to do it in terms of tagging the traffic and not tagging the traffic. But the services should be deployed to do it. It's just a matter of testing it. We said it was a stretch goal. If we make it, we make it. If we don't make it, it's fine enough. Then we had a bunch. So the first two stories are for that one. Then another stretch goal that we learned from Chord Build was that people want some services. So Mark was going to look at adding a traffic analyzer service, just a show that we can add another service. There was a bug assigned to Francesco for some ports that are not properly configured in Onos. So on the Onos side of the app. We need to update the bill of materials. That's very easy. That was a problem that we hit in China where we didn't specify the frequency of the SFP, and then that got us set back us a day. As Luca commented, we need to review and publish the development guide, which is already on an eChord on a private Google Doc. We just have to review it a couple of times to do the iterative process I was talking about before. And then we can publish it. Max has a story for automate the CFM setup. Right now, it's all done manually through some JSON files that we need to push. Some steps of it can be done automatically, probably at the startup time of the pods through Tosca. So that's something that we're looking at. Scott said that he wanted to put some unit tests in it. Maybe Scott, do you want to talk about this one?
Sure. So the unit testing story that's backed up on unit testing frameworks, it's blocked by a couple stories over there that I've also scheduled for this sprint. All of those are low priority. My highest priority is the last story on the list, which is just to provide eChord with whatever core support they need, in particular any modeling stuff that comes out of trying to do the public-private or the fast pass slow path split that we're going to do with VEE.
Thanks.
Okay.
I just added a story lately since it brought me up while we were discussing before. It's that we will probably have to ask Ray to cut a new version of Onos and update that inside the different pieces in exactly, because we found out a couple of bugs that could affect our deployments, for which we have workarounds currently in the guide, but we would prefer not to have those workarounds and instead have the bug fixed in the Onos version.
Okay, why do you need that?
That's a good question. I need to assess if we need anything else
Okay.
for the split. So what is the time process to test with a new version of Onos? Especially if the changes are very well defined and confined in our own specific elements.
Overnight, I think.
Overnight? Okay, so that can be done, I think, the last week before releasing.
So just keep in mind if we're trying to do a initial release, a release candidate, the week before, just make sure all the pieces are in place, right?
Sure.
So Ray's going to be doing he's cutting a maintenance branch for
112.
Yeah, For 112.
I already spoke to him. He said that should be no problem with the new Jenkins environment they're setting up, doing it overnight.
Okay.
So basically what I need is 2 days.
Okay, so probably like sometime next week.
Yes,
Before Thanksgiving.
Before Thanksgiving. Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah.
You guys talking about a release of 110 or 112?
110.
110.
Okay.
We were just talking about Ray's time. Because he's going to do a 112 branch, right? So if we can fit it in between that versus and Thanksgiving, I think we're okay from a timing perspective.
That was good.
Okay, we are going back to this super large list. Oh my goodness. Okay, we are going to just go down this list. Maintenance. We're on maintenance.
So one of these was mine, username and password hard-coded into Ono Synchronizer Playbooks. I think that was noticed while I was doing some eChord migration. So that's an issue that needs fixing. I think it's very easy, quick fix. So I was going to work it in when I had a spare moment someday.
Okay.
We already went over it. So I think.
Yeah, we had already gone through the other ones. So let's look at refactor, build, deploy.
The first one of these is not assigned, but it's right now we're using a BSG container that's built outside the chord source tree. I'd like to put that in the chord source tree. I can take that on. And then diagnostic info during Jenkins builds, that's a modification I need to work with QA to do. A lot of these are nicety things that I hope to get to, but may not get to if other priorities take over.
And that's fine. So, my only comment is not at the risk of us being able to do a 4.1 release.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
Zach, I was going to ask you on the first one, does that mean publishing that container to the local registry and then pulling it into the instances, or would it be published still to Docker Hub?
It'll probably be built to Docker Hub. The image we currently are using is over a year old and probably is behind on security updates and various other things. It would be nice to have it in as part of the tree we build versus, I think Andy made it a while ago. I'm not sure. It would be nice to have it as a part of our system rather than external to it.
Okay, so it's just moving the source from one place to another.
Yeah, the pulling from our own local Docker registry into instances still has the problem of the management host network, I guess, or which I don't think we ever have just made a design decision about definitively.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Guys, we've got 12 minutes. Can you take it offline?
Sure.
Okay, we're going to go through Fabric.
So in the Fabric feature, we only have 2 stories. These are related to the AAA request of blocking certain input port. Simon is working on it, and I think he made some progress that we are going to have a discussion later this week, just to see how to push this a little bit forward. I think the problem or the most difficult part is that there are too many dependencies between these components like AAA, OOT, server routing, and other stuff. So just trying to figure out the best practice to solve the dependency problem.
So an FYI, in terms of a use case that they're trying to do on the gRPC side is David Bainbridge is asking that as part of the gRPC work that they look at AAA and seeing if they could disaggregate it from the platform. Right, so run the AAA app in a container.
Okay.
And so David will probably be starting to provide some feedback.
Yeah, David is involved in the same discussion.
Exactly. So my ask to him was if he wanted that, he keeps an eye on this, so that the AAA app can be containerized, and then gRPC APIs can be put in place.
Okay.
Next.
So dual homing, I'm going to fix a bug. Not a bug, like it's kind of inefficient discovery of the second dual home location. So that's it. We still have some other issues we're working with Broadcom to figure out. It's more like we believe that's the software issue on the switch side, but still you have to be determined. They're able to reproduce part of the problem, but anyway, we offered them more information and trying to help them reproduce and fix the problem. PLCP relay, a lot of things going on because we recently received several bug reports from Harmonic. So 2223, 2224, and 2227. I believe 2227 is already fixed in a later version, so I asked them to try the latest version. 2024, I'm going to take a look, and also 2223, I'm going to take a look. And he is also working on the some extra,
I think
the 1735. Is it done?
Just testing.
Oh, okay, so he's testing that. And we also have some external contributions from Harmonic and Nokia, maybe, about this PD prefix delegation and the square feature. Nothing in multicast.
Okay. QA?
Okay, for QA, the first story is about adding data plane tests. We had already tried out some scenarios, automated data plane tests for our chord scenario in the chord build, and we plan to add them to the Jenkins job. Second one is Zax. Let me finish the other QA sections. 1777, there are few functional module tests that are available from chord tester, which Sienna had written, and we plan to realign them and then add them to the Jenkins jobs. This has not been done for a while, so we might need to realign some of the tests there. And we had already written some gRPC tests in the previous release, and we plan to integrate them and then run them through Jenkins. And then the next one is the preparing Jenkins job based on for mcod repos. The job is already done, but then we are not able to run the mcod using the profile that we used in the Jenkins. So there might need to be some investigation done there. So we might need to do that. And the next one is we had already prepared some automated scripts to validate the installation of the pod, but we plan to make it more parameterized and then make it more generic so that it can be applied to several other pods as well. And 1649 is Zax. So
yeah, that's another thing related to the builds. Right now, we're not we're deleting all of the Jenkins, or not the Jenkins, all the Docker images every time, and that's not efficient. So there are ways to do that in a more efficient way. That goes along with some of the image builder work too.
Okay. Offline limited access, Zach?
Yes, Jan? Oh, okay. This is another thing related to China Mobile stuff. Right now, the OpenStack synchronizer hardcodes the Google DNS. I need to raise that up into the data model. That'll involve also making some changes to some of the Tosca used. And I'm probably going to need either Scott or Sopin's help to validate that the changes are valid. It's partially done actually, so hopefully that'll be something that I can get done pretty quickly.
Okay. I think that covers pretty much everything in the generic sprint. If not, let me know. The next thing, oh, we have operator support as a new epic. I did not see that. I know.
That's my fault. So as for Andy, Scott, Zach, and basically everyone, the priority is to support mchord and echord to get the deployment done. On the side, I had some feedbacks at chord build on things that the operator would like to see in the pod, so I'll start to work on those on the side. And those is to make the feedback state from the synchronizer more precise. There are few small bugs there, and there are also models that have that state but are not actually synchronized. The second one is to finish the work to deploy Elk Stack as a container to have a centralized login source in the pod. And the last one is to investigate the possibility to have a command line interface, since apparently that's what the operator are used to. And that's it.
Okay. Thanks, Matteo. Now, we're going to go to the other sprints. Test framework.
Setting up SonarQube has been on the back burner for a while. Hopefully I'll get to it. I have a grab bag of random stuff, as I told Andy off. So hopefully that'll happen this spring.
The remaining ones are mine. They're all in support of unit tests. So prepare ground for unit test harness. I'll have to look at that one. That one may be either done or close to done. It had some subtasks that Matteo and I already completed. The next two are testing frameworks that are necessary to implement the unit tests for model policies and sync steps. And then finally, there's an issue with the synchronizer framework tests where they don't run from nose 2. I think Sapin told me it's something to do with the model accessor, so I was going to look into that and see how we can get those tests brought online. That's it.
Okay, thanks. Containers?
2102, about 60% complete. It's still work in progress. We have a basic overlay network running. Now we need to implement a couple of new features on ONOS VTN that Juno is working on, and we need to implement another utility method for Kubernetes. So that I'm working on. 2160, that's an Ansible playbook that I'm working on so that we can install Kubernetes in the chord build platform. I'd say that's also about 60 to 70% complete. I'm testing it right now independently. Once I have that, I'll upload a patch set.
Orchestration?
Orchestration 2156, it's still a work in progress. I was not able to work on that last week. I will restart that this week. 2157 is also a work in progress. Is basically to try and identify what the hook points are in ONAP. I do have an answer for this. I talked to a couple of guys during chord build, but I want to investigate this myself. So it feels like right now there is no official controller driver or a controller hook, but I need to confirm that with a couple of people. I'm pretty confident I'll close that this sprint as
well. Okay. I think that's it. Did I miss anyone and any stories?
There was a ticket embedded, I think, somewhere in the tests and didn't show up there. So this is for the static checking tool, which came up quite a few times in chord build that we thought we'd consider as a stretch goal in this release. Again, the highest priority is obviously getting mchord migrated, and my main task, I think, is helping get the SDN controller integrated with the EPC service, and then of course contributing whatever I can, but also going to be spending my spare cycles on the static checking tool, which will make sure that when you try onboarding a service, if your exploiter file contains errors, not only syntactical ones, but options that are missing or specified wrong, or if it doesn't tie into the synchronized implementation, you don't provide a sync step for every model you supply, then that gets flagged immediately as soon as you try onboarding the service, rather than much later on in the build process, at which point you've spent an hour or something like that getting the service working. But that's on the side.
Okay, thanks, Tappan. I think we're done. I will start the sprints later today. Okay, thanks everyone.
Cheers, guys.
All right, thanks. Bye.